The janitor moved quietly through the long marble hallway, his mop sliding across the shiny floor like a slow wave. It was late in the evening, and the office building was almost empty. Only the low hum of computers and the faint sound of rain outside filled the air. He liked this time of night. No one was around to stare, no one to remind him that he was invisible. His name was Eli. For 8 years, he had worked in the same building, cleaning offices, fixing small things, and greeting people who rarely noticed him. Most of the employees passed by without even making eye contact. Some dropped their coffee cups on the floor and walked away, leaving him to clean the mess. But he never complained. He needed the job. His mother's medicine cost more each month, and this job kept a roof over their heads. Every morning before work, he visited her small apartment across the river. He made her breakfast, checked her pills, and left a note that said, "Be good, Ma, I'll be back after work." She always smiled weakly and said, "You work too hard, son." But Eli just kissed her forehead and left. He didn't mind working hard. What hurt him more was how people treated him, like he was part of the furniture. At the office, the younger staff often laughed at him behind his back. They made jokes about his old shoes and his worn-out uniform. He heard them once but said nothing. He just kept mopping. The worst part was that they worked in the marketing department, a floor he cleaned every evening. He saw their photos on the wall, smiling, confident faces in suits, the kind of people who never thought someone like him mattered. One of them, Tom, was the loudest. He was young, full of confidence, and loved to impress his friends. "Hey, look," Tom once said, pointing to Eli's cleaning cart. "That's your future, boys. Keep missing deadlines and you'll be pushing one of those." They all laughed. Eli only smiled softly and said, "Someone's got to keep the place clean." Then he walked away. His calmness made them laugh even more. Days turned into weeks. The company was preparing for a big charity event, a fundraising dinner called Hearts for Hope. It was meant to connect people across different levels of the company, raise money for local schools, and, as the posters said, build unity. There was even a blind dinner event, where employees could be randomly matched with others for a dinner conversation meant to bridge social gaps. It was supposed to be fun, but Tom and his friends saw it differently. One afternoon, while joking around in the break room, one of them said, "Hey, what if we signed up the janitor?" The others laughed. "Yeah, imagine him sitting across from someone like the CEO," Tom said, grinning. "She'd lose her mind." At first it was just a joke, but then they realized they could actually do it. The form for the charity event was online, and anyone with an employee ID could be entered. Eli's badge number was printed right on his cleaning cart, so they typed it in. They filled his profile with silly descriptions. Confident conversationalist, great sense of humor, enjoys fine dining. They laughed as they clicked submit. What if he actually gets picked? One of them asked. "That's the point," Tom replied. "Let's see how he handles a real dinner for once." None of them expected the system to actually pair Eli with the one person who never joined social events, the CEO herself, Clara Hayes. Clara was known for her sharp mind and calm authority. She built the company from the ground up after her father's passing, and though people respected her, they also feared her a little. She rarely smiled, never wasted words, and didn't tolerate nonsense. So when her assistant told her she had been paired for the blind dinner, she raised an eyebrow. "I didn't sign up for that," she said. "It's part of the charity, ma'am. They say it's randomized," Clara sighed. "Fine. If it helps the cause, I'll go." The day of the dinner arrived. Eli had just finished cleaning the lobby when a woman from HR approached him. "Eli," she said with a polite smile, "your dinner reservation is confirmed for tonight." "My what?" he asked, confused. "The charity blind dinner, you've been selected." "Congratulations." Eli froze. "No, ma'am, there must be a mistake. I didn't sign up for anything." She checked her tablet. "It's confirmed under your name. You're representing the maintenance staff. You should be at the Skyline restaurant at 7. He didn't know what to say. Part of him wanted to refuse, but the woman's tone was so official he felt he couldn't. Okay, he finally said, "but I don't have the right clothes for that sort of thing." She smiled kindly. "Just do your best. It's for a good cause." After she left, he stood by his cart for a long moment, feeling a strange mix of fear and confusion. Who would he even be sitting with? Would people laugh? He didn't know it was a setup. Not yet. At home, he searched through his closet for something decent to wear. The only thing close to formal was an old gray suit he hadn't worn in years. He brushed off the dust and polished his shoes until they shone. His mother, watching from her bed, asked, "Where are you going, son?" He smiled nervously. "Some dinner thing from work, Ma. I think it's fancy." She looked proud. "Then hold your head high. You clean their offices, but that doesn't make you smaller than anyone." Her words stayed with him. That evening, the city lights shimmered through the drizzle as Eli walked into the restaurant. The host looked at him curiously but didn't question his name when he said, "Reservation for Eli." The elevator doors opened to a rooftop filled with laughter, music, and elegant people. He felt his heart race. He had never been in a place like this before. Tom and his friends were already there, hidden near the bar, waiting to see what would happen.
"He actually came,"
one whispered. "This is going to be epic." Eli was led to a small table near the glass windows overlooking the city. He sat down, nervous, adjusting his sleeves. A few waiters looked unsure whether he belonged there. Some guests whispered quietly. And then the room shifted. The elevator opened again and out stepped Clara Hayes. She wore a simple black dress, her posture perfect, her expression calm. Conversations faded as people turned to watch her walk in. She was the kind of person who commanded attention without saying a word. When the host guided her toward Eli's table, a murmur ran through the crowd. Tom nearly dropped his drink. "You've got to be kidding," he whispered. Clara approached the table, glanced at the name card, and then at Eli. For a moment, she seemed surprised. He stood up awkwardly. "Good evening, ma'am," he said softly. "I think there's been a mistake." She tilted her head slightly. "Are you Mr. Eli?" "Yes, ma'am, I work at the building." "I see." She paused, then smiled just a little. "Well then, no mistake. Shall we sit?" Eli blinked. "You sure?" "Of course. It's a dinner, isn't it? Let's enjoy it." He sat back down, unsure what to do with his hands. The people nearby were whispering, phones half hidden, trying to take pictures. Tom and his group were almost shaking with laughter. "So," Clara began, unfolding her napkin. "Tell me, Mr. Eli, how long have you worked for us?" He swallowed. "About 8 years, ma'am." "That long?" she said, sounding genuinely surprised. "And what do you do exactly?" He hesitated. "I clean the offices. Maintenance, mostly." "Ah," she said thoughtfully. "One of the people who keep everything running while the rest of us make a mess." Eli smiled faintly. "Something like that." There was a pause. The waiter poured water into their glasses. Eli's hands trembled slightly as he lifted his drink. He was aware of every pair of eyes on them, every whisper. But Clara didn't seem to care. She asked him about his day, about his family, about his work. At first, his answers were short, careful, but soon he started to relax. He told her about how he fixed broken lights before anyone noticed, how he once found a lost wallet and returned it without saying a word, how he liked seeing the sunrise from the 20th floor after the night shift. She listened with real attention, not the polite kind people give when they're waiting for their turn to speak. And then something unexpected happened. She laughed, a real laugh, soft and genuine. "You know," she said, "I think you've just taught me more about this company in 10 minutes than most of my meetings ever have." Eli smiled shyly, unsure what to say. Across the room, Tom's grin was fading. "She's actually talking to him," one of his friends whispered. "Like normal," Clara leaned forward. "Tell me, Eli, if you were running this place, what would you change?" He blinked, startled by the question. "Me? Oh, I don't know. I just clean floors." She shook her head. "No, really. You see more than you think." Eli looked down for a moment, then said quietly, "I'd probably make sure everyone felt seen. People work better when they feel noticed. Sometimes a hello means more than a bonus." Clara studied him for a moment, her expression softening. "You might be right." The dinner went on longer than either of them expected. When it finally ended, Clara stood and extended her hand. "Thank you, Eli, for being honest. This was refreshing." He stood too, shaking her hand gently. "Thank you, ma'am, for not laughing." Her eyes glimmered. "Why would I laugh at honesty?" And with that she left, leaving behind a room full of silent, confused employees, and a group of pranksters who didn't know whether to laugh or feel ashamed. As Eli walked out into the cool night, he felt strangely calm. He didn't understand what had just happened, but something inside him felt lighter, stronger. as if for the first time in years, someone had truly seen him. The next morning, Eli woke up early, long before sunrise. The rain had stopped, and a thin layer of fog rested over the quiet streets. He made coffee in his small kitchen, still thinking about the dinner from the night before. It felt like something out of a dream. He had sat across from the CEO, shared stories, and even made her laugh. That alone felt impossible. He looked down at his old gray suit hanging on the chair. The edges were still slightly damp from the rain. He smiled to himself. For one night, he didn't feel invisible. But as soon as he walked into the office that morning, reality came rushing back. The moment he stepped through the glass doors, he could feel the stares. People were whispering, pretending to scroll through their phones while looking his way. He didn't understand what was going on at first. Then near the elevators, he heard it. "Did you see the photos?" one woman said, giggling. He actually sat with her. "The janitor!" "I can't believe she stayed for the whole dinner," another replied. What was she thinking? Eli's heart sank. So people had been watching. He tried to ignore it and walked to the supply room. But the laughter followed him down the hallway. When he reached the janitor's closet, Tom was waiting there, leaning against the wall, grinning. "Well, look who's famous now," Tom said, the CEO's new best friend. Eli tried to keep his calm. "I don't know what you mean." "Oh, come on," Tom laughed. "You really think we don't know? That dinner, the blind date, we signed you up. Thought you could use a little fun." Eli froze. "You did what?" Tom chuckled. "Relax, old man. It was a joke. No harm done. Besides, you should thank us. You had dinner with the boss." Eli stared at him for a long moment, his hands tightening around the mop handle. He wanted to be angry, but what good would that do? People like Tom would never understand. "You shouldn't play with people like that," he said quietly. "That wasn't funny." Tom smirked. "Maybe not to you, but everyone had a good laugh." Eli turned away and walked down the hall, his shoulders heavy. He felt embarrassed now, remembering every moment of that dinner, the laughter in the room, the whispers, the way people stared. Had she known? Had Clara realized it was a prank the whole time? He spent the morning cleaning the executive floor, lost in thought. As he was polishing the glass doors near the CEO's office, her assistant stepped out. "Eli, good morning," she said politely. "The CEO would like to see you." Eli blinked. "Me?" "Yes, she asked for you personally." His heart started racing. Maybe she was angry. Maybe she had found out about the prank and thought he was involved. He wiped his hands nervously and followed the assistant into the office. Clara Hayes sat behind her desk, calm as always, typing something on her laptop. When she looked up, her expression softened slightly. "Good morning, Eli," she said. "Please sit down." He sat on the edge of the chair, feeling completely out of place in his cleaning uniform. "Ma'am, if this is about last night, I didn't mean for any of that to happen. I didn't even know I was signed up." "I know," she said simply. Eli looked up, surprised. "You do?" Clara nodded. "I found out this morning. Security informed me that a few employees used your ID without permission." Her voice was calm, but there was a sharp edge underneath. "I'm not happy about it." "I'm sorry, ma'am," Eli said quietly. "They were just joking around." Clara's eyes met his. "Do you think it's funny to humiliate someone?" "No, ma'am. Neither do I," she said firmly. Then her tone softened again. "But I also wanted to tell you something. That dinner, despite how it started, was the most honest conversation I've had in a long time. So thank you for not walking away." Eli blinked, unsure how to respond. "You're not upset?" "Not with you," she said. "But I am disappointed in some of my staff." For a moment there was silence. Then she added, "I'd like you to come back here tomorrow morning. I want your opinion on something." "My opinion?" he asked, confused. "Yes. We're reviewing our maintenance contracts and workflow systems. You've worked here for years. I'd like to hear what could be improved." Eli's heart thumped in his chest. "Me? I'm not sure I'm qualified for that, ma'am." She smiled slightly. "I think you are." When he left her office, he felt like the ground beneath him had shifted. People still stared as he walked through the halls, but this time he didn't care as much. Something inside him felt stronger, even if he didn't fully understand why. The rest of the day, the office buzzed with gossip. Some said the CEO was furious. Others claimed she had invited the janitor to lunch. Tom and his friends were nervous now, whispering quietly in corners. That evening, Eli went home to his mother and told her what happened. She listened carefully, her wrinkled hands folded in her lap. She saw who you are, his mother said softly. People can mock, but truth always shows. Don't be afraid to speak when someone gives you a chance. The next morning, Eli put on his cleanest shirt and arrived early at the office. The assistant greeted him with a smile and led him to the conference room. Inside, Clara was standing beside a whiteboard filled with notes. "Good morning, Eli," she said. "Come in." He looked around. The table was empty. "Is it just us?" "For now, yes," she said. "I wanted to hear from someone who actually knows how the building works, not just the people who look at spreadsheets." He smiled shyly. "Well, I do know the pipes better than anyone." Clara laughed softly. "That's exactly why you're here. Sit." They spent the next hour talking about small things. Broken lights, air conditioning issues, wasted electricity, careless habits by employees. Eli explained how a few small changes could save the company thousands each month. Clara listened, taking notes. She asked thoughtful questions and seemed genuinely impressed. At one point she said, "You've been working here 8 years and no one has asked your opinion before?" Eli shook his head. "Most people don't notice the janitor, ma'am." "Well," she said firmly, "they will now." Later that afternoon, Clara called for an internal meeting. The room filled quickly with department heads, including Tom and his manager. When everyone settled, she stood at the front, calm and poised. "I want to discuss professionalism and respect," she began. "Yesterday I discovered that one of our employees was signed up for a charity dinner without his consent. It was meant as a joke. I don't find it funny." The room went silent. Tom's face went pale. Clara continued. "That employee handled the situation with grace and integrity. In fact, he reminded me what humility and dedication look like. Something many of us forget." She turned slightly toward Eli, who was standing quietly near the back. "Eli, would you come here, please?" He hesitated, then slowly walked to the front. Everyone stared, confused. "This man," Clara said, "works harder than most of us and asks for nothing in return. From now on, he will assist our operations team as a maintenance consultant. His insights will help improve efficiency across the company." A stunned silence filled the room. Eli felt his throat tighten. "Ma'am, I don't know what to say." "Say yes," she replied with a faint smile. He nodded, unable to speak. After the meeting, as people left quietly, Tom approached him. His usual smirk was gone. "Hey, look, man, I didn't mean for things to go this far." Eli looked at him calmly. "You didn't think at all," Tom sighed. "Yeah, you're right." He paused, then added, "I'm sorry." Eli studied his face. There was no arrogance this time, just guilt. "Apology accepted," he said softly, then walked away. That evening, when Eli returned home, his mother was waiting by the window. "You're home late," she said. He smiled. "Good things take time." She could tell something had changed in him. His shoulders were straighter, his voice lighter. When he told her about the new position, her eyes filled with tears. "See," she whispered, "God sees hard work even when people don't." Over the next few weeks, Eli worked closely with Clara's team. He showed them where equipment was wasting energy, how to fix recurring issues, and how to treat maintenance staff with respect. Slowly, the culture in the building began to shift. People started greeting him in the hallways. Some even asked for his advice. Clara would often stop by during inspections. They'd share a quick conversation, small things about work, sometimes even about life. She seemed more relaxed around him than anyone else. One afternoon, as they were walking through the main lobby, she said quietly, "You know, Eli, when I first sat down at that dinner table, I thought it would be awkward, but I'm glad I stayed." He smiled. "Me too, ma'am, even if it started as a joke." "Sometimes good things start the wrong way," she said. He thought about that long after she walked away. The same people who once mocked him now greeted him with respect. Tom even helped him fix a light fixture once without being asked. The laughter that used to follow him was gone. In its place was something new, quiet admiration. Eli never let it get to his head. He still did his regular rounds, still greeted everyone with the same calm smile. But inside he felt a quiet pride. He had gone from being the man people ignored to the man they learned from, and all because of a prank that didn't go as planned. Still, he couldn't shake one thought. When Clara had looked at him across that dinner table, there was something in her eyes, not pity, not curiosity, but respect. And somehow, That respect had changed everything. The next few weeks passed like a quiet storm that left behind a clear sky. The office that once treated Eli as invisible now greeted him every morning with polite smiles and nods. People who used to laugh at him now held the elevator door open. The same workers who ignored his good morning before now said it first. It was strange, but also humbling. Eli didn't let it change how he behaved. He still came early, still carried his mop and toolkit, still checked every floor carefully before leaving. The only difference now was that people noticed. Clara often called him to her office for short meetings. At first, it was about maintenance and improving energy systems. But slowly, their talks became more personal, never inappropriate, always respectful, but filled with genuine curiosity and warmth. One afternoon, she asked him to sit with her during lunch. The two sat by the large glass window overlooking the city. The sky was gray and the streets below looked like moving ribbons of light. "Do you ever get tired?" she asked suddenly, looking out. Eli smiled faintly. "All the time. But when you have people depending on you, tired doesn't mean you stop." Clara nodded slowly. "Your mother, right?" He looked surprised. "You remembered." "I remember people who talk about love," she said softly. He looked down, unsure what to say. There was something in her tone that wasn't just professional, something human, something he didn't expect from someone in her position. She glanced at him. "When my father passed away, I had to take over this company. I was 26. Everyone thought I was too young. Every day people tested me, doubted me. So I stopped letting them in. It was easier that way." Eli listened quietly. "Sometimes protecting yourself means closing too many doors." She turned to him. "And you? You don't close any doors, do you?" He smiled. "I don't have many to close." For a moment, they just sat there in silence. Two people from completely different worlds, connected by something simple, the honesty in their words. The next day, Eli was helping the facilities team install new lighting sensors when he noticed Tom walking toward him. The young man looked nervous, holding a folder. "Hey," Tom said quietly. "Can I talk to you for a second?" Eli nodded. "Sure." Tom shifted awkwardly. I just wanted to thank you for not getting me fired." Eli smiled faintly. "You learned something?" Tom nodded slowly. "Yeah, a lot. I didn't realize how much pride someone can have in their work until I started watching how you do things." He paused, then added, "You changed how people see things around here." Eli shook his head. "I didn't change anyone. They just started looking." Tom chuckled softly. "You're a better man than most of us, you know that." Eli just smiled and went back to work, but deep inside he felt a small spark of peace. Sometimes change doesn't come through speeches. Sometimes it comes quietly through example. That weekend, Clara invited several team leads to a community event, repairing a local school playground the company had sponsored. To everyone's surprise, Eli was asked to supervise the project. He hesitated at first, but eventually agreed. When he arrived at the site, he was met with dozens of volunteers. Clara was there too, dressed simply in jeans and a white shirt, her hair tied back. For once, she didn't look like the CEO. She looked like any other person ready to work. "Good morning," she said, handing him a clipboard. "You're in charge today," he blinked. "Me?" "Yes," she smiled. "You know how to fix things better than anyone here. I'll take orders from you." The others laughed lightly, but she wasn't joking. Throughout the day, Eli guided teams on repairing swings, painting benches, and fixing the fence. Clara worked beside him the whole time, scraping old paint off the walls and laughing when a few drops landed on her shoes. At one point, Eli noticed her struggling with a heavy wooden plank. He quickly rushed to help. "Careful," he said gently. "You'll hurt yourself." She smiled, slightly breathless. "I can handle it." "Maybe," he said, lifting the other end. "But you don't have to." The look she gave him then was soft, not the look of a boss or a superior, but of someone who finally felt safe around another person. For the first time in years, Clara Hayes wasn't the CEO. She was just Clara. By sunset, the playground was complete. The walls were freshly painted, the swings glowed under the orange light, and the laughter of children filled the air. Clara stood beside Eli, looking at the finished work. "You did well," she said quietly. He shook his head. "We did well." She turned to him and said something that caught him off guard. "You know, Eli, you remind me of what this company was meant to be before we all got lost in numbers and titles." He looked at her, unsure how to respond. "You built this place, ma'am. You didn't lose it." "Maybe," she said softly. "But sometimes even the strongest buildings need someone to remind them where their foundation is." They both fell silent again, watching the last bit of sunlight fade behind the buildings. It was a moment neither of them wanted to break. A few days later, during a staff briefing, Clara announced a new program, one that allowed junior employees and maintenance staff to share ideas directly with management. She credited the concept to Eli. "Sometimes," she said to the audience, "the brightest ideas come from the quietest people." When the meeting ended, people came up to congratulate him. Some even apologized for how they'd treated him before. It was strange being noticed after so many years of silence. But Eli handled it humbly, just like always. Later that day, Clara found him in the maintenance area, checking tools. "You don't like the spotlight, do you?" she asked with a teasing smile. He laughed quietly. "I'm not built for it." "Well, you're going to have to get used to it," she said, crossing her arms. "The board wants to include you in the next safety planning session." Eli blinked. "Me in a board meeting?" "Yes," she replied simply. "You've earned it." He shook his head with a small smile. "I don't know what I'll say." "Just speak the way you always do," she said gently. With truth. Her confidence in him felt strange but comforting. He wasn't used to being seen as someone with a voice that mattered. When the day of the meeting arrived, Eli wore his best clothes and sat quietly at the large conference table surrounded by executives. Clara introduced him personally. "This is Eli," she said. "He understands this building better than anyone, and he has ideas we should listen to." For the next hour, he shared practical suggestions about reducing energy waste and improving safety for night workers. The board listened carefully and even took notes. When he finished, Clara smiled proudly. "Told you he's worth listening to." After the meeting, as everyone left, she lingered for a moment. "You did well," she said softly. "You've come a long way from that first night." He smiled shyly. "That night was supposed to embarrass me." "Funny how life works." Clara looked at him thoughtfully. "Maybe it was supposed to bring us both some perspective." Over the next few weeks, their bond deepened. They didn't speak every day, but when they did, it was never small talk. They spoke about life, choices, and the small details that people often overlook. She asked him about his mother often and even arranged medical assistance through the company's care program. Without telling him directly, when he found out, he tried to thank her, but she simply said, "She deserves care. You've given enough." One evening, Eli was leaving the office when he found Clara standing by the lobby window, looking at the city lights. She seemed lost in thought. He hesitated before walking over. "Everything okay, ma'am?" She smiled softly. "Just thinking." "About work?" he asked. She shook her head. "About how strange life is. A few months ago, you were someone I barely noticed, and now you're someone I trust." Eli looked down. "I just did my job." "Sometimes doing your job with honesty is more powerful than pretending to be someone you're not," she said. For a moment, the only sound was the faint hum of the city. Then she added quietly, "You've changed the way people see this place, including me." He didn't know what to say. All he could do was nod, humbled by her words. Before leaving, she said one last thing. "Eli, if anyone ever tries to make you feel small again, remember, I saw who you really are." Her voice was calm, but there was warmth in it that stayed with him long after she walked away. That night, Eli stood outside under the stars, feeling the cool wind on his face. The world hadn't changed. People still rushed past each other, still looked down on those they didn't understand. But something inside him had shifted. He had gone from being invisible to being respected, from being mocked to being heard, and he didn't need revenge or pride to feel complete. Only truth. What he didn't know yet was that the biggest moment of his life was still coming, one that would test his heart, his values, and everything he had quietly stood for all along. Days that followed were quieter, but the atmosphere in the office had subtly shifted. People treated Eli differently now, some with curiosity, some with cautious respect. He didn't boast or change how he worked. He still cleaned floors, fixed doors, and quietly helped anyone who asked. Yet everywhere he went, he felt the weight of eyes that had once ignored him. Clara, on the other hand, seemed more at ease around him. She would sometimes walk past his floor just to stop and ask a small question, a simple, "How's it going?" Or, "Did you sleep well last night?" Nothing heavy, nothing corporate, just human. And each time Eli felt a warmth he couldn't name, a strange comfort in the casual attention of someone so important. One afternoon, as the sun poured through the windows, Eli was inspecting the elevator system when his phone buzzed. It was a message from Clara's assistant. Please come to the executive suite. The CEO has something important to discuss. He paused, heart pounding. Important? He whispered to himself. He had been to meetings before, had been asked for his opinions on efficiency and safety, but something about the wording made his stomach twist. When he arrived, Clara was already waiting, standing near the floor-to-ceiling window. She didn't smile, and her expression was unusually serious. Good afternoon, Eli, she said. Please sit. He hesitated, then obeyed. Ma'am, is everything okay? Yes, she replied, but her tone was calm, deliberate. I wanted to speak with you directly about a situation that's delicate. He nodded slowly. I understand. She motioned for him to come closer. You've been here a while, right? Yes, ma'am. 8 years. And you've seen a lot of things that others don't notice? Eli blinked. I guess so. Clara folded her arms. Do you remember the night of the charity dinner? He nodded instantly. I do, it was unexpected. Unexpected, she repeated, her voice soft. Yes, that's one way to put it. But it also showed me something important, something I haven't seen in a long time in this building. She paused, glancing out the window for a moment. Integrity, honesty, humility. You have all of those qualities, Eli. He felt his face warm. Thank you, ma'am. I try to do my work properly. That's exactly it, she said. Most people think small tasks don't matter. But small tasks done well reveal character. That's what I saw last night, and I still see. For a moment, silence stretched between them. He looked down at his hands, unsure what else to say. Then she continued. Eli, I want to offer you a unique opportunity. It's outside your usual role. It requires discretion, trust, and responsibility. Eli's heart thumped. I don't know if I'm ready for anything like that, ma'am. You are, she said firmly. And I'll explain why. Clara then told him about a confidential project she had been planning for months. It involved evaluating several key departments, improving safety, and implementing efficiency measures company-wide. It was sensitive work, and she wanted someone she could trust, someone who knew the building, the staff, and the hidden details that reports often missed. You are that person, Eli, she said quietly. I need someone who will see the truth without bias, who will speak honestly without fear of consequences. He felt a mix of pride and fear. Ma'am, I don't know if I can handle that. I just do what's necessary to keep the building running. Exactly, she said, leaning slightly forward. That's why you're perfect. You see what needs to be done and you act without caring about recognition. That's rare, he swallowed. I'll try. I won't let you down. Clara studied him for a long moment. I believe you won't. Over the next few weeks, Eli was pulled into a world he had never imagined. He attended private meetings with Clara, reviewed reports, and gave recommendations. He noticed small mistakes others overlooked, small inefficiencies that cost thousands. Every time he spoke, Clara listened with attention, nodding thoughtfully. One evening, after a long day of inspections, she asked him to walk with her to the rooftop terrace. The city lights glimmered and the air was crisp. You've adapted quickly, she said, breaking the silence. I didn't expect someone in your position to adjust so well. I had a good teacher, Eli replied softly. She turned to look at him. Me? He nodded. You showed me that what I know matters, that what I do matters. Clara's gaze softened. It does. But there's more than that, Eli. Your presence reminds me of the human side of this work. Not the numbers, not the profits, not the endless schedules, but the people. Eli felt a strange emotion stirring in his chest. Respect, yes, but also something warmer, more fragile. He glanced away, embarrassed. I've always tried to keep people at a distance, Clara continued. It's safer that way. But with you, I feel like I can trust someone completely. He looked at her, unsure what to say. His mind raced. She was the CEO. She was untouchable in so many ways. And yet she was standing here, talking to him with such honesty. You can trust me, he said quietly. I won't betray that. I know, she whispered. And that's what makes this easier. And harder at the same time, Eli frowned, confused. Harder? Clara hesitated, then shook her head slightly. Never mind. It's nothing. But it was something, and Eli sensed it. Something that went beyond work, beyond responsibility. The following week, a situation arose that tested Eli's courage in unexpected ways. A contractor had been cutting corners on one of the building's safety systems. Most people ignored it. It didn't affect day-to-day operations, and reporting it could cause trouble. Eli noticed it during his routine checks. He knew that reporting it could put him in the center of conflict, especially with people higher up in the company. But he also knew that ignoring it could be dangerous. He went directly to Clara. "Ma'am, there's a problem with the contractor. They're cutting corners on the safety system. It could lead to serious issues." Clara's expression tightened. "Are you sure?" "Yes, ma'am. I checked myself. If we don't fix it now, it could cause accidents." She nodded slowly. "Thank you for bringing it to me. I'll handle the rest. You did the right thing." The contractor was removed, the system fixed, and the problem quietly resolved. But the incident had ripple effects. Many employees who had laughed at him now looked at him differently. They realized that the quiet janitor they once mocked was now someone who could influence decisions that affected everyone's safety. Clara called Eli into her office later that day. "You did well today," she said. "You acted with integrity. That's rare." Eli felt a rush of pride, but also a strange unease. "I'm just doing what anyone should do, ma'am." "Most people don't," she said softly. "And that's why you stand out." That evening, as he walked home, he thought about everything that had changed. The prank, the dinner, the trust Clara had placed in him. It all seemed surreal. He had never imagined that a simple act of honesty could lead to so much responsibility and recognition. A few days later, Clara asked him to meet her outside normal hours. She led him to a quiet part of the building, a small private lounge rarely used. "I wanted to thank you for everything you've done," she said. "And also, to tell you something that's been on my mind." Eli felt his stomach tighten. "Yes, ma'am." "I've seen how you work, how you speak, how you treat people," she said, her voice soft but firm. "And I realize something. I respect you more than I thought possible. Not just for your work, but for who you are." Eli swallowed hard. "Ma'am, She held up her hand gently. "I'm not saying this to embarrass you or to complicate things. I just want you to know that what you do and who you are matters to me, and it shouldn't go unnoticed." For the first time, Eli didn't know how to respond. His heart was racing, his mind full of thoughts and feelings he had never allowed himself to recognize before. Thank you," he said finally. "I don't know what else to say." "You don't need to say anything," she replied. "Just continue being yourself. That's enough." As he walked home that night, the words echoed in his mind. Respect, trust, recognition, and something more. Something fragile. Something that neither of them could name yet. The line between work and personal feelings had blurred, and neither of them could ignore it. Eli returned home to his mother, who noticed the change immediately. "You've got a light in your eyes, son," she said. "Something's different." I don't know, Ma," he admitted. "Things at work are changing. People are noticing me. And Clara, I don't know how to explain it." "Just be honest," she said gently, "with yourself and with her. You've come this far because you never hid who you were. Don't start now." That night, as Eli lay in bed, he realized something important. The prank that started it all had led him to a place he never imagined. He had responsibility, respect, and trust, but now the stakes were higher. Not just for work, but for the delicate bond growing between him and Clara. One wrong step could destroy everything, and deep down, he knew that the next challenge would test more than his skills or his courage. It would test his heart. The days after that rooftop conversation carried a different weight. Eli noticed small changes everywhere. Staff who had once ignored him smiled when they passed. Contractors who treated him with indifference now listened carefully when he gave instructions. And Clara, she walked past his floor more often, sometimes pausing to ask a question, sometimes just offering a quiet nod of acknowledgement. Eli knew something unspoken lingered between them. He had grown used to trust, respect, and responsibility. But now there was a new element, an unacknowledged tension, a closeness that neither fully understood yet neither wanted to name. One Monday morning, the building's alarm sounded unusually early, A minor flood had been reported in the basement near the storage area. Water was seeping through cracks in the wall, threatening equipment. Eli grabbed his gear and ran down to assess the damage. Clara, surprisingly, was already there. She had arrived before most staff, and her expression was focused, serious. "I wanted to see this for myself," she said when she spotted him. "Ma'am, this could get worse quickly," Eli said, already setting up pumps to remove the water. "I know," she replied. "I trust you'll handle it." The two of them worked side by side. Eli directed staff, checked the electrical systems, and coordinated the repairs. Clara moved with purpose, helping to clear debris and comfort nervous employees. Despite her high-ranking role, she didn't hesitate to get her hands dirty, and Eli felt a deep admiration for her resolve. By late afternoon, the flood was contained. The equipment safe and the basement dry. Staff cheered quietly, exhausted but relieved. Clara turned to Eli, smiling faintly. "You handled that well," she said. Eli shrugged, trying to appear casual. "It's my job." "And yours too, in a way," she laughed softly. "Maybe, but you kept everyone calm. That's not in the manual." He felt his chest tighten. In the chaos, in the shared effort, something shifted. The bond they had been quietly nurturing now felt stronger, more real. But Eli knew he had to be careful. Clara was the CEO, and he was the janitor turned trusted advisor. A line still existed, one that neither could ignore. The following week, Clara called him into her office for what she called a special project. She closed the door behind him and gestured to a chair. "This is going to be delicate," she said. "I need your judgment and I need your discretion." Eli nodded. "You can count on me." She leaned forward, lowering her voice. "I've been offered a partnership with a major investor. It's lucrative, but it comes with strings attached. They expect the company to make certain changes, cuts, reorganizations, and compromises that could affect staff morale. I want your honest opinion before I decide." Eli felt the weight of the request. His hands trembled slightly, not because he didn't know what to say, but because he understood the stakes. He had never been asked to influence decisions at this level. "I'll be honest," he said slowly. "If these changes hurt the people who keep this company running, I don't think it's worth it. Profit is important, but the people, they matter more." Clara looked at him, her expression a mixture of relief and respect. "Exactly why I trust you," she said softly. "I knew I wasn't wrong to involve you in these matters." Over the next few days, Eli and Clara worked closely, reviewing plans, evaluating potential consequences, and considering every angle. Staff noticed the CEO spending more time with him, whispering ideas, consulting with him before making decisions. The office buzzed quietly with curiosity and admiration. Eli, despite the attention, remained humble, doing his work diligently while guiding the higher-ups. One evening, as they walked through the building together after hours, Clara stopped near the lobby window. "Eli," she said quietly, "can I ask you something?" "Personnel?" He looked at her, surprised. "Of course, ma'am," she hesitated. "Do you ever feel different? Like you're living in two worlds at once?" Eli smiled faintly. "Every day. But I've learned that what you do in one world affects the other. It all connects." She looked at him, her gaze steady. "I mean, between us," his heart skipped. "Between us?" "Yes," she said softly. "I know the boundaries. I know your position and mine. But I can't ignore the connection. Do you feel it too?" Eli swallowed hard. He wanted to speak, to explain the feelings that had been quietly growing in his chest, but words faltered. "Yes," he whispered, I do." Clara's eyes softened, but she didn't take another step closer. "We have to be careful," she said. "I can't risk the company. You can't risk—" "Well, everything." "I understand," he said, his voice steady despite the racing of his heart. "I don't want to risk what we've built here, but I won't deny how I feel." For a long moment, they stood there watching the city lights flicker in the night. Silence surrounded them, but it was comfortable, not tense. The next day brought an unexpected test. A reporter from a business magazine had gotten wind of a mystery advisor helping the CEO. Rumors of a janitor-turned-consultant were circulating online. Clara was furious, concerned about leaks and public perception. Eli found her pacing in her office. "Ma'am, what can I do?" he asked. She looked at him, frustration and worry in her eyes. "Nothing. But I can't let this story spin out of control." Over the next hours, they strategized, deciding which details to release and which to keep private. Throughout it, Eli noticed Clara's calm under pressure, her ability to make swift, clear decisions even when everything felt chaotic. Her confidence reassured him, and he felt more certain than ever about the respect and trust between them. Finally, the story was handled, and the office breathed a sigh of relief. Clara turned to Eli, a small smile breaking through her tension. "We did it," she said softly. "You handled it," he replied. "I just helped." Her gaze lingered on him for a moment. "You always help, even when no one notices." That evening, Eli walked home under the quiet streetlights. The city was calm, almost reflective. He thought about how far he had come. From an invisible janitor to someone trusted by the CEO, someone whose opinions mattered, someone whose presence made a difference. When he arrived home, his mother was waiting by the small kitchen table, knitting quietly. She looked up as he entered. "You're later than usual," she said, a hint of concern in her voice. "I had a long day," he said, smiling softly. "But it was good, important." She set down her knitting. "You look different," she said. "More alive. I can see it in your eyes." Eli sat down beside her. "Things are changing, Ma. People see me differently now." "And Clara?" She smiled knowingly. "I understand, son. Just remember, it's not just about how others see you. It's about staying true to who you are." The next week, the company held a formal event to announce new initiatives inspired by Eli's suggestions. Clara made a speech, highlighting the improvements and subtly praising the contributions of a remarkable individual who had remained behind the scenes. The room erupted in applause when Eli was introduced. He felt a wave of emotion, pride, gratitude, humility, and something more complicated, something tender and warm that settled in his chest. Later that evening, after the event, Clara found him alone in the now quiet lobby. "You know," she said softly, "I never expected this. But seeing the way you handle everything, I can't help but admire you and respect you. And, well," she paused, searching for words. "I feel a connection I haven't felt in years." Eli took a deep breath. "I feel it too, and I promise I'll never let it interfere with the work we do, or the trust you've given me." She nodded, a small, genuine smile on her lips. "I believe you." For the first time, Eli felt at peace. The prank that started it all, the blind dinner, the trust she placed in him, the respect he earned, it had led to something far greater than recognition. It had led to understanding, connection, and a bond that neither of them could deny. As he walked home that night, he realized the journey wasn't over. But it was no longer just about survival, about being seen, or about small victories. It was about honesty, integrity, and the quiet power of being true to oneself. Clara and Eli didn't need grand gestures. They didn't need public declarations. What they had was something stronger: trust, respect, and the knowledge that in a world full of appearances, they could see and value the truth in each other. And in the quiet streets under the soft glow of the city lights, Eli knew that no prank, no misunderstanding, no barrier of title or status could ever take that away. He smiled to himself. The journey had been unexpected, full of challenges and surprises, but it had brought him here, to recognition, to respect, and quietly, to the possibility of something more. And for Eli, that was everything.